an independent research center.
An organization that is cutting edge,
that seeks to articulate Indian nationalistic perspective,
focused on the issues,
of global and Indian importance,
challenges, opportunities of the Indian polity.
a think tank of incisive minds.
Now that is India Foundation. It all began with the series called The Thinkers Meets, which we started in 1994 at Hyderabad. In 2002, it acquired a much bigger shape and size. From there, it was felt that instead of just meeting once a year as a group of thinkers, we should institutionalize the activity. And then came this idea of setting up a think tank of nationalist thinkers.
We bring in scholars, we bring academicians, we bring in ambassadors, we bring in former diplomats, we bring in journalists, we bring in politicians, we bring thinkers, and we deliberate on some of these burning challenges of India, and then we try to find solution to this.
We needed a forum where we could actually once again start addressing and looking at issues, opportunities that confronted the nation from a uniquely Indian perspective.
The remarkable part of our foundation is how quickly it has moved and blossomed from an idea into an institution. And it is really becoming an important part of our country's intellectual thought process.
If you look at the human race itself, what is it that is different between us and other living species? Is the ability to think. How do you use this quality of thinking itself? And that's the whole idea behind India Foundation, that, well, how do we use thought of a higher and better nature to make this country, to make this world much better?
It's not looking at one policy or one event. It's trying to explain to the people that there are different ways of going about building India. It's all about creating a new India, which is not just in terms of a great power, a leading power, but where Indians have better quality of life on one hand, and where Indians are able to stand up proudly in the world and say, yes, we are here as equal responsible partners of the world.
We as a nation can reach out for new horizons. And that is one of the perhaps more fascinating part of our intellectual objectives and of our intentions.
The way India Foundation is structured, that we are broadly divided into 4 areas of work. One of them is security and strategic studies. One is culture, economic affairs, and one area that we are working now to develop is constitutional and legal studies.
Each one of us bring different knowledge on the table, with different experience on the table and different expertise on the table. So you will find that the people who are working, full-time people who are working with India Foundation, such committed and devoted people. How do you get them?
It's not necessary that it is a big physical infrastructure here. We have developed teams that operate independently, but in coordination or under the guidance of the foundation. Work is done within the four walls of the foundation establishment, but also outside.
65% of our population is below the age of 35. And I think all our institutions must get in a lot of youth. And today's youth, they have access to information. They are the youth of the internet age. So they have great advantages. And those who have a certain commitment to a nation, to the idea of nation building, I think India Foundation offers great opportunities for such young people.
We decided to have 3-4 big flagship events every year.
The running theme is how do you get best bright minds to apply to a particular theme at a particular point of time. For example, when we are now going to celebrate 70 years of India's independence in next year, so India's Ideas Conclave, which is a very important flagship event of India, which will be in Goa, will debate upon democracy, which will debate upon India's journey so far. When we talk about young thinkers meet, they will tell you about how they look at world, how they look at India. The prism from which we look at the issue is also as important as the issue itself. It actually captures the essence of India Foundation through these events.
Much of India Foundation's programs, discourses, bilaterals and conferences are forums where ideas are openly debated.
People of our thinking, like-minded people, like-minded intellectuals from India as well as from all over the world come together for these events. They provide platform for scholars, intellectuals from all over the world who are useful in promoting India's interests.
Two of our events have global footprint. These are the India Ideas Conclave and the Counter-Terrorism Conference.
The Counter-Terrorism Conference that we organize annually, I think this is the only conference in the world dedicated exclusively to the concept of counter-terrorism.
Terrorism, both in its magnitude and proliferation, is one of the gravest challenges not only to the international peace and security, but also the human security.
An important aspect of counter-terrorism strategy is capacity building to prevent attack through intelligence correction and collusion, development of technological capabilities, raising the special forces and enactment of special laws.
Fortunately, we don't lack regional mechanisms of cooperation. The Heart of Asia process, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation are the appropriate mechanisms through which we could organize our collective efforts in the fight against terrorism, drug trafficking, and other such threats.
In its form, terrorism has changed from a local and sectarian phenomena to a regional and global one.
This conference acts as a platform for all the CT experts, right from policymakers to actual practitioners, the police, the intelligence, all of them converge at one place.
Creates possibilities for meaningful discussion in the public fora on issues of public policy, which can have a bearing on governance itself.
India Ideas Conclave is a very unique conclave. It started with a very novel idea, is to really go back to the fundamentals, go back to the drawing board and try to debate the idea of India.
I think it is such a positive development. There are authors and intellectuals that one has read, but one never gets a chance to interact with in conferences in India. And for the first time, one is getting that opportunity in India with this conference.
It is the nature of life itself that we value life. It's not a thought instruction. Even if you try to catch an ant, it will try to do everything to protect its life. This is the nature of life, it's inbuilt into us, that this life is precious to us.
India needs an alternative political and economic narrative, which we had to build. To do that, we look for the best people from around the world. Of course, Indians, but outsiders also, foreigners also. How they can contribute to this process of developing a new narrative.
We get ideas all the time. And we need places to share with others, connect ideas.
We invite people who have fresh ideas to throw before the people. It's an open conference. Anybody who has India's interest in mind and who has got new ideas can come there, share their ideas with like-minded intellectuals.
It's really a churning of minds, and a lot of important issues are on the table, and it's very enabling for those who are involved in policy formulation or who'd like to look ahead or look at India or the world 10, 20, 50 years down the line.
So apart from churning out sound bites, what advice would you have for politicians with respect to the media?
The most important thing is, just because a question is asked to you doesn't mean you have to give an answer.
Well, you want to know the trick. Irrespective of question, give the same answer.
India Economic Convention brings together investors, economic experts from all over the world every year to Delhi.
India is among the few bright spots in the current global economy, and that's definitely also an introduction that we need to make. We have some challenge, but there are a lot of factors, demography not being the least, which is extremely positive in the current environment.
We do a conference by name Dharma Dhamma Conference.
It is very significant in the context of the bringing about the commonalities of ideas of religion, especially Indic religions.
We need to spiritualize the politics, secularize religion, and socialize the business.
There are 4 C's that we must follow: compassion, charity, cooperation, and coexistence. If compassion is the essence of dharma, essence of religion, then I think charity, cooperation, and coexistence will automatically happen. Then the harmony of religions will happen.
It's a strategically very important conference. Culture is a major dimension of our foreign policy. Through Dharma Dhamma Conference, we bring together academics, scholars of all the Indic religions, not only from India, but also from the entire Southeast Asia and other countries.
India Foundation also does bilateral dialogue with non-official think tanks which have official linkages. This we do extensively with China, with the International Department of the Chinese Communist Party, with Fudan University in Shanghai. We do it with Myanmar. And now we are trying to start the process with Iran and other neighboring countries. The whole idea again is to use this process to understand what those countries are thinking, what do they think about India, how do we take the relationship forward, how do we build on our economic relationships and strategic relationships. And when you do it outside the government format, people are more prepared to talk freely.
The aim is to understand, especially our neighbors, well, so that India can really progress and these countries are made aware of the Indian policies.
IF Dialogues is a very unique concept. Here we invite experts, many times the policymakers, the officials in the government, the ministers, to come and share information without any inhibitions to a select group of very important opinion makers.
The idea is again to get people out of the box, to meet in an informal group of 20, 25 people, even 15 people. No quotations, you're not allowed to quote anybody who speaks there. So people are able to speak freely.
To get domain knowledge experts from all over the world and try to get an informed audience.
It enables these policymakers, administrators, academics and so on to open up, and it enables a kind of freewheeling discussion.
The benefit in it is that true picture of the issue is understood by certain important people in the country.
We have really managed to understand a lot of global issues, particularly India's relationship with those countries. What are the obstacles, what are the misunderstandings, and what are the potential which is lying untapped.
We should lead the world today in giving what I say both intellectual knowledge as well as spiritual knowledge, and combine both of them together.
At the beginning, the middle and the end, the nation's welfare, the national good, the national horizon, how to make our nation a better place, a nation of harmony, a nation of prosperity, is really at the essence of our endeavors.
And what India Foundation is doing is to inject that positivity to the India story.
India has arrived, and India Foundation, which has a nationalist viewpoint, wants to propagate to the world what India can do, will do, and intends to do.
We want to put India on a strong foundation. Our foundation is global peace, global prosperity, and to meet that, India Foundation will be the foundation of ideas.
India's main essence of the wisdom can be said in one phrase, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. India Foundation is one such institution which works to spread this message far and wide.